Think, Joe, that I've died and gone to heaven. Well, photography heaven, because real heaven would kind of suck if it was just lenses. But photography heaven, yeah, I could do that. Welcome to the SLR Lounge Canon Lens Wars series. We've designed this to be the ultimate visual guide to real-world differences between a whole host of Canon professional zoom lenses as well as primes. Now, I want to start out by thanking B&H for standing behind our Canon Lens Wars concept. B&H was good enough to send out all the lenses that we were missing for our test, so thanks to B&H for supporting SLR Lounge. In total, we tested 25 Canon lenses valued at over $40,000, which is what you see here. Now let's go over how the Lens Wars testing is going to work and what it's designed to do. There are plenty of sites and resources out there for technical reviews that can differentiate on a pixel by pixel basis which lens is sharper, which one has better contrast, more color, and so forth. Our goal isn't necessarily to find out all these technical details, but to see perceivable real-world differences between professional level L-series lenses, or the L-series zooms, versus standard and professional primes at the same focal lengths, but at wide open aperture settings and also at the same aperture settings. Now this means that we're testing these lenses on a visual level at the same focal length to see which lens, say, creates the most or best bokeh at wide open apertures, which lens has visually better sharpness and clarity, perceivable differences in contrast, color, and so forth. So for example, we want to compare the visual differences between the three 50mm prime lenses, the 1.2L, the 1.4, and the 1.8, versus say the 24-70mm f2.8L Mark II and a 24-105 f4, both at 50mm as well. With all their lenses at their widest open apertures, or WOA, or WOA as we refer to, as well as with all the lenses at their widest common apertures, or WCA, and we want to see basically what the visual differences are between each lens. Now for a real-world visual test of these differences, we needed to get away from the standard still life studio scene that's typically used to say test these technical details of lens sharpness and detail and chromatic aberration and so forth. We want to show real-world visual differences that actually matter, not differences that need to be pixel peeped to be seen. So we need a scene that's actually similar to something we typically might shoot. So with the help of our wonderful wardrobe designer Samantha Freedman of Impressionist Designs, as well as our talented makeup and hair artist Olivia Black, we prepared our lovely model Yvette and we chose an outdoor scene. For the shoot, I selected a willow tree scene because the tree trunk and the extending branches in each direction in different depths, well, they allow us to see differences in the depth of field at different apertures and different settings between our lenses. But of course, since our shoot was outdoors, the challenge was capturing the same or similar compositions for each shot, while the light was also similar enough to actually compare from image to image. This meant that we needed to capture all the images within a small time window so that we could compare apples to apples across all of the different images that we would capture. Now to set up, we measured out the distances at every focal length that we were testing to ensure that we had basically the exact same or nearly the same composition at each focal length grouping. Now at each of these focal length spots, we had our lens assistant Kaylee follow our lens guide that listed out each lens that matched or could zoom to that particular focal length. For every shot, the camera was set up on our tripod and image stabilization for every lens that had it available was turned off. Why? Well, because image stabilization can actually create a bit of movement which reduces overall detail, particularly when you're shooting on a tripod. With each lens, we obtained our focus automatically via the nearest AF point in the camera, and then we verified the focus via our 10x zoom in live view. We then switched the focus from automatic to manual to basically get our focus tack sharp and to prevent it from changing after we had our focus set. We shot all of our images on a Canon 5D Mark III in full RAW, and we also utilized the mirror lockup function once again to prevent any additional camera shake that could reduce image detail. The camera was then triggered via a Velo Shutterboss wireless remote for the exact same reason. Again, we want the maximum amount of detail possible. We don't want to touch the camera with each shot. With each lens at every focal length, we'd run through the lowest aperture and then every full stop above that, up to f11. Now between shots at every aperture, I would adjust the shutter speed manually to match the exposure from shot to shot. When we'd captured all of our shots at our respective apertures on a particular lens, then my assistant Tony would bring out the next lens, we'd switch out, and we'd basically shoot through all the lenses within that focal group until we'd completed each lens in the entire focal range grouping. Once we completed all the lenses within a particular focal range, then we'd move the tripod back to our next spot, set up the same composition, and verify basically that Yvette, our model, was roughly the same size, the same positioning in the frame, and so forth, and then we go through the entire process again. We had a total of 9 focal ranges in the testing, starting from 17mm to 24, 35, 50, 70, 85 millimeters, 100, 200, and then finally ending with 300 millimeters. We then processed each image inside of Lightroom 5 with identical settings using the SLR Lounge Lightroom preset system, so that any differences that you see in, say, color, sharpness, contrast, and so forth, well, they are a direct result of the lens itself and not the settings used. In addition, we also turned off all the sharpening and noise reduction settings, so that way we're seeing each image as it came straight from the lens, and you can compare detail directly from the lens as well. So from here, we're going to be creating review videos and articles at each focal length that show you the differences between these lenses within a particular focal range grouping, and giving you our favorite lens options within that group. So welcome to the Canon Lens Wars series by SLR Lounge. Now be sure to click the links below in the descriptions for every video that we upload, so that you can check out the actual article, you can see additional details, additional examples, and so forth, as well as get details on where and how to purchase each lens. My name is Pye, and I'll see you all in the next video.